All right. It's another episode of Write Once, Read Many. This time covering chapter 22.5. I'll turn down the music. I don't actually have headphones on to hear it at the moment, so I have to just assume I'm talking loud enough to be heard over it. Hey Greg, first to arrive. We can see this beautiful imagery of, cell phones and keys, and it'll slowly be covered by the much more beautiful imagery of bugs and spider webs. That's what we all like. So yeah, I guess I will just, go in. Oh, I forgot to copy into the document the audience participation reminder. But it is 22.5. Talk about a favorite prison escape / jailbreak sequence in media. I quite like the one in this chapter. Sorry, I'm reworking the question of the 22.6 for a moment while I have the song still playing. But I think it's a pretty good one. It's just hard to word. That's a decent way to do it. And the speed draw finishes. We get to see in full high definition the centipedes crawling, the spiders hauling, all the fun. Okay, so as far as the themes, I think this chapter shows the theme of the indomitable grit of parahumans. They just won't stop, you know? And then also I put compartmentalization, but now it's kind of crumbling. And, normally it's a bit more, stalwart than it is in this chapter, when she can barely keep it together. But, starting in on the chapter, 22.5, Abandoned. Taylor wakes up on the floor of her cell and thinks of how Danny will see her as a monster after what happened. She agrees with this assessment of herself, but doesn't know how to feel about it yet. Doing the thing she does where she lets herself inhabit the bugs, she realizes that tons of her bugs were killed off by Kid Win's anti-bug drones. The bugs had seemingly been searching for targets of her last attack command, but also doing other setup stuff like spinning out new cords of spider silk. Taylor's perturbed by the idea that her passenger might have willed it to happen while she was sleeping, or that her passenger and unconscious mind are more or less the same thing. And I gotta say, when I let in the dog to get it to stop scratching the door, I didn't think she'd be spinning around and grunting so long. Um, anyway, hopefully that will be the last of the spinning and grunting. Taylor starts to get up and realizes that she's terribly injured. Oh, Greg says that you guys can't really hear her anyhow. Well, that's good. As Boston Terriers do, there was a lot of grunting involved with every action. So, yes. Oh yeah. So Taylor starts trying to get up and realizes she's terribly injured, of course. For something to cause her to contort in pain, it's got to be pretty bad. This is Taylor we're talking about. She's got bruises and cuts on, plenty of places, but she's also remembers that Tag slammed her face into the table as well, which popped the lens out of one side of her glasses. So she's got this weird, altered vision state this whole chapter, too. They left her on the floor of her cell in those, brute handcuffs that fully cover your hands and are wrist to wrist connected directly. With her bugs moving around, Taylor notices that the entire area in her current 5-block bug radius has seemingly been evacuated. And now standing up, she rolls her shoulders and everything hurts, and she remembers that she's been stuck with her arms in front of her in cuffs most of the day. And what I would describe as an innocuous moment makes her think of Brian. When she stops thinking about Brian, she thinks of Rachel instead. In a true moment of Rachelness, she just lashes out and smashes her new huge handcuffs into the door. And this would be fine if there weren't a big zapper in the ceiling that zaps her and then says that was only 20% strength. If you keep hitting the wall, I'm going to shoot you with a 40% zap. It's pretty inhumane. Then using even the time when she's writhing in pain, unable to move, she searches her surroundings, and finding Tag's body in a body bag in the morgue, she feels weird when she realizes that she killed him, because she kind of feels bad, but she doesn't feel that bad. And even when she tries to make herself feel worse, she still just doesn't feel that bad. Taylor thinks about her friends and wonders if it's too late to save them, imagining that they're already fighting fighting all out against the PRT. And she doesn't have time to waste either way. So she starts to steal Tag's phone and keys. There's not a good way to get the stuff to her quickly, so she has to bring it outside, then up to the roof, then through the hole that Alexandria burst her way out of, then all the way down to the basement where her cell is. And there are some bug shenanigans that I'll put in the powers section, but it's fun skitter stuff, and she gets the elevator to arrive in the basement of the morgue, and gets the bugs to carry the phone and keys inside the thing. And once they've gotten outside with the phone and keys, she does a slow process of bringing them up to the roof as she has to sort of coat it in webs, then drag it upwards and stuff. So yeah, as they're doing this, Defiant lands a Dragon craft on the helicopter pad on the roof of the building that she's in. Dragon jetpacks over to him as he gets out, and there's a button code on a smartphone that Defiant enters, and Taylor memorizes it, hoping that it's universal for the building, because it's what he uses to unlock the roof door. And then Taylor isn't sure how the touchpad of the screen works. She doesn't know if it's touch or heat, So in case it's heat, she has some bugs hold themselves against fluorescent light bulbs, almost burning up, and then they move over and they press their hot bods into the phone keys. This chapter is filled with tons of classic Skitter moments. The heated bug plan successfully opens the door, and Taylor flops out, and she gets the phone into her mouth for safekeeping. There are chains between Taylor's ankles because of her cuff setup, so she can only move so fast, but she manages to push the elevator button of the basement just before Defiant does, and the elevator actually sits at the basement floor, I guess, or maybe, yeah, it must idle at the basement floor or something. But she gets inside and she hits the buttons for the first and third floor, not really having a plan yet. I'm condensing stuff down, a reasonable amount here, but using a combination of bugs and lips and teeth, she finds the right key for the cuffs and she gets them off. In the meantime, the elevator brings her to the first floor and she's hoofing it up the stairs. So the whole keys thing, she's doing all that while she's running around. Dragon and Defiant are maneuvering to cut her off, regardless of where she goes, pretty much. And around the same time, Taylor starts to feel like something is off with everything that's happening right now. Things aren't adding up, as they say. So finding the silk that her bugs had made while she was unconscious, Taylor has the bugs start splicing together all these smaller pieces to make more useful, larger lengths of cord. Seeing a drone flying around, she hides all her bugs behind her, and she runs up to the Kid Wind drone and grabs it, slams it into a desk drawer, and then blocks the drawer from opening. And then she gets a second drone by grabbing a trash can and running over and just smashing it to the ground trash can side down, so it's stuck under the can. Pretty good. She moves over to the hardline phones and tests it, and they're all dead. Probably cut off by Dragon. Taylor uses the cell phone to open the door to a supply room, at which point D&D immediately change direction to head for her. It's clear they're tapped into the security system. Finding the right key, she's able to get her hands on a grenade launcher. And while she's doing that, she has bugs eat enough power lines that the lights go out for the building. And loading what she assumes to be an EMP round, with Defiant in audible distance walking around, she tries to fire the grenade launcher, and then the thing simply reads "non-confirmed" in all capital letters. Defiant is one room away, and she realizes she needs matching gloves that will allow her to fire it. So she opens another locker with the same key, gets out one of the PRT uniform gloves, and then just as she gets it on and is gonna fire, Defiant EMPs the grenade launcher that she's holding, and the thing goes dead. In this moment, Taylor goes from desperate and fighty to just pouting, kind of, and it's just it's understandable, but it's a funny moment when she's just super pouty. Anyway, so Dragon arrives just behind Defiant, and she starts in with "Fine, you got me," and then kind of gets cut off a little bit after that. Defiant is indicating that he can neither hear nor talk to her with his fully encompassing mask on, and the two heroes grab her by one shoulder each and start marching her out of here. Defiant casually zaps all the bugs in the area without even hurting Taylor or letting go of her or anything. And seemingly fully caught, Taylor is upset at how much these two have her hard countered. I pulled this section. Unfair. All of it. On so many levels. Too many situations all together with no perfect right answers. Over and over, being faced with lose-lose situations. Cutting ties with the Undersiders versus helping Dinah. Leaving my dad versus abandoning the people in my territory. Leaving the city versus letting the world blow up in some unknown, undefined end of the world scenario. Taylor's thinking around her feelings for like paragraphs, but she's thinking stuff like, it's all come to this, and it's other people who have had to pay, or who have paid the price. And she's not naming the thing she's really focused on, which is the death of either Brian or Rachel. And trying to lean into the anger to get strength. Taylor comes up with more as they're going outside, and just before they get to the doors, she tries to struggle free. Oh, she's struggling, but she, aside from being horribly injured, is also being, like, gripped by people in power armor, so it just doesn't work out. Too bad for Taylor. When they step outside and see the dragon craft, Taylor thinks about how, to the people of the city, this is just a background event. But to her, this is everything. Thinking about her friends, Danny, and then about how either Brian or Rachel is dead, unable to think of them as, or unable to think of it as being either one of them specifically, so that she can hold on to the memory of or the idea that either one of them could still be alive. With great determination, Skitter still doesn't give up. She attaches a cord to Dragon and binds the other side to Defiant, and she starts talking to them, has a little conversation, and convinces them to talk to her outside for a minute. When conversing between each other, there's only silent looks, and Taylor says, "It's rude to whisper," feeling like she's being more petty and than she wants to be. Defiant says that Dragon can't talk, but doesn't explain it much further. Taylor even takes this moment to try and figure out how she can change, like, turn this situation around to be a weakness for Dragon, even though Defiant had already said, like, Dragon was hurt, but insisted that it happened so that she stopped from capturing you at the school. So it's like she knows she's indebted to Dragon, she thanks Dragon, and then still does all this shit. They have an okay conversation for a second, and Defiant's apologizing and stuff, and then she tells him that she wants to talk in private, and Dragon agrees and starts leaving with Jetpack, but this of course pulls Defiant along with her. Skitter runs after the pair of them. Defiant kind of is able to stop at the edge of the roof, and then she just leaps into him, trying to push him over the edge. Thinking back, she thinks about how Armsmaster might have grabbed her to pull her down with him. But Defiant instead uses his spear to try and stay on the rooftop. He expands it and it bites into the roof. Taylor runs over and kicks the spear in pure defiance, and this only manages to hurt her foot. Dragon sort of shoos Taylor away from the spear and then helps Defiant back onto the roof. I was trying to describe the general next bits for a while, and I was just like, I have to talk so, like, in loops to not just say exactly what's said, or to leave out huge parts. So here is community theater time. You get to hear me reading several lines back and forth between these characters. Stop that. Stop trying things. You bastards. You don't have any conception of what you did, do you? I have some, but no, you assholes knocked me out. I don't know anything that's been going on. I attacked Tag and Alexandria. They're dead. A family man. A bully. twisted by the seamer. Probably he was vetted, but he's not important. You killed one of the strongest recognized heroes in the world at a time we needed her most. Her image, her courage, her help. Do you know what's going to happen now? I do. It's going to crush the morale of our defending forces, and it's going to break the hearts of billions of people around the world. I knew it when I made the call, but I did it anyway. You doomed us all. She doomed us all. She was the one who did it. Her and Tag. Maybe. Probably. They forced your hand. I understand that. And I've been trying to be lenient, gentle, even though it's not familiar to me. You're making it hard. You keep trying things, trying to kill me. You would have survived a 6-story fall in armor like yours. I could have run while Dragon looked after you, gotten my hands on another weapon or something. You could make this easier. I don't want to make things this easier. As long as you work for them, I'm going to fight you. You want to know what Alexandria did? She and Tag convinced me that the PRT is more trouble than it's worth. If we have to rely on them to win this, then we don't deserve to win. That's a choice you just made for a whole planet of people. A choice I'm making for me. I think we can find a way past the end of the world. It can't be impossible to survive in the meantime without the PRT. This isn't going to work. That last line was Miss Militia talking through a speaker. She's up in the dragon craft that's hovering above them. This is when everything hits Taylor all at once, and she kind of freaks out because she realizes many realizations and revelations. That they still want to negotiate with her because the Undersiders haven't attacked, because no one was actually dead, because that part was a ruse the whole time, but she reacted stronger than anyone had anticipated. Oh, the tangled web we weave. Greg pulled the "but he's not important" quote and then said, "Sorry, not sorry," Tag. Yeah, fucking got his ass. Yeah, so it turns out Rachel and Brian both still alive. What a relief. We only had to wait 2 days between chapters. I kid, I didn't read this when it was coming out. Final chapter thoughts. I think this is a great sequence. We get to see fun bug stuff. She's having horrible emotional trauma, but we get to see her doing inventive fun bug stuff and running around, and even when she's totally off her game, she's still able to trick those rubes, Dragon and Defiant. So, pretty cool chapter, pretty cool little jailbreak. She's made the whole area inhospitable, unlivable for blocks in all directions. Oh, what a Taylor move. Let's see. I guess that's all for my final chapter thoughts. I do say on ARC stuff, yet one more meaning of the ARC title cell, Tag cell phone. I bet we didn't consider that. Anyway, that's silliness aside. Another, I don't know. I don't have that much to say as far as ARC stuff. I think this one fits really well in as well. It's a bit shorter than the chapters around it, I think. But there's a quick little fight, and then they reveal the secret. Anyway, for characters, don't have that many characters overall. There is Dragon. Dragon is silent, as we know as outside observers, but Taylor doesn't know. She is, of course, an AI and was had requested to Defiant that he remove some of her restrictions so that she no longer had to strictly follow the law / orders that she got from a governmental body. And in the process of that, she was damaged and she was unable to speak English at the moment, or speak any language aloud. Although she does seem to be able to fully communicate with Dragon, and still has like the human-to-human perceptive abilities that are much greater than someone like Defiant or Taylor. She's an empath. The Dragon, she's pretty calm and collected. They capture Taylor without much fuss. Of course, they plan to do so kindly. They didn't plan to rough her up, as it were. Moving on to Defiant. We just for Defiant we get oh, you know what? I think I forgot one of the classic missteps. Forgot to silence notifications. So, yes, for Defiant, great stuff. Again, just like Dragon, the casual ease with which they caught Taylor was delightful. But he's clearly, like, doing his best to continue his emotion training. Some people do, like, training of superpowers in these, things. They do a training montage where they try and get better at lasers or whatever, but his training montage, you like see him like running drills with Dragon where he has to be nice to people. Now quick, they're yelling at you. Please be calm. Again, but nicer. I don't know. I can imagine it. And he and Dragon have a funny relationship. She'll chastise him, and it's clear to Taylor that something is being said, but she can't prove it. And the back and forth, the whole extended back and forth that I read out, I think that I mean, it's nothing crazy. I just think it's a really good little dialogue between Taylor and Defiant. Especially because, and she makes the remark about like, this isn't the first time I fought a dragon man on a roof. This is also like her coming full circle and like talking to Armsmaster, who she met on her first night out in Arc 1, and having this like different interaction with him where he's like consciously like, even though it's like almost reverse, where in that situation he was coming to her with information and with like help, he was not like treating her well. And in this, she's literally attacking him and trying to push him off a roof, and he's still like mostly keeping it cool. So it's like it's a definite reversal of that scene, beyond just that she's fighting a dragon man on a roof. Or maybe just a dragon. Anyway, so moving on from Defiant, I guess. We all love Defiant. He's our favorite reformed douchebag who goes from being kind of a douche to less of a douche. It's like the Nathaniel Plimpton III story, where like he really sucks when he's introduced, and then through a long process of realizing that he sucks, then he doesn't suck as much after putting in a lot of work. But Miss Militia, she talks through the speaker. She has this plan that we don't know what the plan is yet, but some sort of negotiation. Miss Militia always be negotiating for someone who's holding, any gun. I wonder if she can make like a gun emplacement. Like if she can turn her green energy thing into like a turret. That'd be pretty cool. So, moving on to Taylor. I pulled a couple quotes here to get Taylor's state of mind a little bit. I'd killed a man, and I had done it with my power, which somehow felt more intimate than the gun that killed Coyle. My power made the bugs an extension of myself, and I'd used them to murder the man. It was a little different from wrapping my hands around his throat and squeezing, or biting him in the throat and tearing deep enough that he couldn't survive. I couldn't bring myself to feel anything meaningful about it. Oh, Taylor. Tag's tragic flaw is that he made the protagonist feel completely justified in killing him. Then the other quote here was, my lips came in contact with the cockroaches I was using to guide the metal into place. I didn't care. Disease, filth, disgust, they all came in a distant second to other priorities. Yeah, there's that parahuman grit. Man, Taylor's awesome. She's a beast. I know that this is insightful commentary, that Taylor is a beast. Anyway. So, yeah, Taylor is just like all over the place this chapter, reeling like the whole time, operating mostly on bug senses. Like knocking the lights out probably helped her because she's got the one lens glasses. She's all running around. Terrible, like, I imagine it would throw you off balance if you like suddenly had one eye a completely different amount of vision clarity from normal. Like putting on just half of a glasses. I guess people wear monocles, but usually they're like correcting one eye to match the other eye. This is like the opposite of that. I don't know. I think I would be off my game. This is like, even for Taylor, she's seemingly fairly injured after the electrocution. She's just pushing through it. She's just doing her thing, hobbling around. Yeah. It is a hard time for Taylor. I felt like I had more to say about her. Her weird interaction with how she feels about Tag, I think, is pretty good. The fact that she has complicated feelings about it and isn't just instantly remorseful feels like realistic to me, because like even now she feels justified in having killed him off. So yeah. And then like the whole thing where she can't keep her compartmentalization straight, where she's like trying to say, yeah, Brian's not dead, but then that makes her think like, oh no, now I think Rachel's dead. And then she's like, well, but that's not true. And then she's like, oh no, Brian's dead. So she's trying to give herself like hope for each of them by not confirming it, but I don't know that it is a successful strategy. It seemingly is not helping her very much. But by leaping back and forth between these visions of reality, one where each of the two is alive and the other isn't, then she was able to maintain for just long enough to get to the point at the end of the chapter where she learns they're both alive. So, you know what? Actually, I take it back. Checkmate. Taylor's the winner. Um, it's kind of, yeah. I through sheer like willpower and ridiculous previous trauma, Taylor is able to not have to live with the pain of either of the deaths because the ruse was over. It's kind of just weird the more I think about it. Oh, Taylor. Anyway, moving on, I could like sit in this weird spot of thinking about Taylor in this chapter for a while, but I wasn't able to articulate my thoughts when I was trying to write earlier. So, unlikely that I'll be able to now in this moment. But talking about the powers, knowledge, and world building, here was the fun section. The wiring. Could I hotwire it like someone hotwired a car? Getting into the walls wasn't as hard as it should have been. Rachel had done a little damage when she'd attacked with the dogs a week ago. Even though they'd shorted up and sealed the exterior from the interior, there were gaps that I could use to get inside from the building's interior, much as I'd done when disconnecting the outlet for Kid Wynn's drone recharging station. The actual connection, the damn thing had seemed to be reinforced with thick wires and a button mechanism that was too heavy to move from within. The bugs themselves couldn't form a live connection between the button and the contact. A workaround. I used cockroaches to carefully strip away the insulation, 2 centipedes positioning themselves so their mandibles were above the 2 respective pieces of wire. Their tail ends entwined with one another, then they let themselves drop. Their bodies bridged the gap between the wire behind the contact and the wiring by the button. The centipedes died in an instant, and the door opened. I dragged the smartphone and keys in, being careful to use bugs to bridge the gap so the phone and keys wouldn't fall through, and then let the elevator carry the bugs to the floor above. The door opened automatically as the elevator arrived, and I brought the items out the same way. I just think that that's a fun little bit. It's a little treat. Oh, and then this one, just the grenade launcher. Grenade launchers with special shells. I turned a grenade launcher over in my hands before figuring out how to open it with the load cartridges. Each was color-coded with a symbol and 2-letter code stenciled on it. A green cartridge with a face, eyes squinting, mouth open with tongue extended. TG beneath. A red cartridge with the letters IG and a flame. A blue cartridge with a stick man stuck in goop, CF, no doubt standing for containment foam. A yellow cartridge with a lightning bolt and EM beneath. So yes, this is the grenade launcher of which she was not able to make any use. I think this whole chapter is like excellent in terms of her escape sequence, and it's because we like know the characters, their powers, their capabilities. We understand what the PRT is like and can kind of like conceptualize this building because we've even like been in it a bunch of times before. And so like when she says she's got to get the keys out of the morgue up to the roof of the building in there, like I already sort of have a conception of like, okay, how big of a process this is. And then on top of that, when she's like, I'm going to be dodging through the building, and then they like sort of march her up the stairs and stuff, like, I don't know, it just, I feel like by being able to lean on the sense of place that has already been created throughout the book for this like repeated returned location, they're able to, or Wildbow is able to like get a lot done, and I don't know, it just makes this whole sequence work better, because if this were just some random location, then we wouldn't have as much of an idea. Like when she describes that she runs up to the second floor and that's like where the offices are and like there are drones flying around, it's like we've kind of been to these locations, and she's like walked around in more peaceful times, like in arc 18 and stuff. Anyway, I think that this whole sequence and everything is all just very well set up and benefits greatly from the groundwork of the rest of the book. For the bonus, I have unfortunately no bonus. For the audience participation, as the reminder was at the beginning, the question is, talk about a favorite prison escape / jailbreak sequence in media. And Greg's answer had been Andor. The entire series is great, but the prison escape is excellent. One way out. And yes, that you've got a whole sequence where like Andy Serkis is like yelling to get people ready, and he keeps saying there's only one way out. And Andy Serkis is, of course, our favorite Gollum. But in this case, he's playing a non-CGI Andy Serkis. It's very strange. Something that we rarely get to see. But he's a very compelling presence, and he really helps rally the prisoners to fight their way past all the guards. Although the one thing I will say is the fact that they didn't shoot those guys in the control room after they left, I find that surprising. I think they should have shot the guys in the control. And then the reason I really asked this question was because when I was reading this chapter, I was thinking to myself how much that this escape sequence oddly reminds me of the prison escape in the Grand Budapest Hotel, when Ralph Fiennes, along with several other criminals, are like going along, and I mean, not that anything like this really happens in this, but they're like sneaking through like a ceiling vent or something. They see a room full of guards, and they need to like get the keys or something in there. So one of the prisoners drops down. He kills all the guards in the room and dies, but like tosses them up the keys or whatever. And then they just sort of briskly move along, and it kind of felt like, I don't know, that whole thing is a comedy sequence. And if you look at the scenes with Taylor in this, it's close to a comedy sequence, with her hobbling along and stuff, and like trying to, like, I don't know, run around with the big things on her, like the big gauntlet cuffs on her hands. I personally find a lot of humor in this chapter. There's a lot of Wildbow stuff, I think, in general, where it's like really funny and really morbid at the same time. Like something awful can be happening, and then as a reader, I'm just laughing and laughing because Wildbow puts in those comedy beats. But yeah, I guess that is mostly that. We didn't get any other answers. Let me think if there's any other prison escape sequences I really like. Should have thought about the question beyond having the main answer that brought up the question. I like... wait, no. That's more of a heist scene. Whatever. I'm sure there are great prison breaks that I'm just not thinking about. There are plenty of excellent ones. Not the comic jailbreak, though. That's actually a bad jailbreak sequence, despite it being called that. But I think we have rounded the corner on another episode. Let us be gone before I can prattle on any longer. So this week, as it has been for several weeks, and the last 2 arcs, the song here is Imago by ScarlettXOX, which you can find her work at twitch.tv/Scarlett_Rogue. Greg says, cheers for the stream. Cheers indeed. Our Discord server can be found in the link in the channel description as well as the stream description. The author of the work can be supported on Patreon at patreon.com/Wildbow. The full text of the work is available for free online at parahumans.wordpress.com, and there is also a fan-made audiobook, again free, as all these things are. It is at audioworm.rain-online.org. So, yes. And then I'm gonna let the song play out.